بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Indeed, all praise is to Allah. We praise Him, seek His aid and ask His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evils of ourselves and from the evils of our actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, none can misguide. And whomsoever Allah misguides, none can guide. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except for Allah alone, having no partner. And I bear witness that Muhammad is a slave and His messenger. To proceed, verily the best of talks is the book of Allah, and the best of guidance is the guidance of His messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And verily the most evil of all matters are the ones innovated, for every newly innovated matter is an innovation, and every innovation is a misguidance, and every misguidance will lead to the hellfire. We are at the moment into reading the books or the letters that have been sent by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we have finished last week talking about the letter which has been sent to Herakl, and we've finished talking about it, and we have extracted the benefits, and we will as well add more benefits. Let's just go back to the first letter to al-Najashi, which is Ashama, and we said that Anas ibn Malik, he says it's not the one. It says it's not the one which he had embraced Islam, because the Prophet of Allah, he had sent those letters to those who are tyrant, and he's not a tyrant. It said the letter is history. In terms of that letter, in terms of the letter text, is history. We can't verify it. Actually, we can't verify any letter from the ones they're going to be talking about, except for one, and that is the letter to Herakl, and that's it. All the letters not being verified authentically. And through the hadith methodology, so it's left as a history. So, but we know that those people who had sent it, for example, Amr ibn Umayyah al-Dhimri is the one who had sent the one to Ashab, to Najashi, and that's authentic. We go ahead after that, the first one, this is the first one. So after that, we went to the second letter, and that is to al-Muqawqas Malik al-Iskandariya, and this is, we said as well, history, the text of it, yes? The text of it is history. But he sent it, but we don't know what is in that letter, because you see, it's very important to know his history, because we can't derive from it things to do with the Sharia, because if we're going to use that as for our Muslim politics, we need to make sure it's authentic. So in that letter, the text of it, we have no way whatsoever to actually verify it. It is history. Third one, which was into Kisra, we know as well the text of it as well is history. But we know that the Prophet ﷺ, upon Kisra, had torn off, yes? He had torn off the letter. Allah's messenger, he said, may Allah tear off his what? His kingdom. And Allah had fulfilled his supplication. Then we went to the Herakl, Qaisar al-Rum. The letter we have discussed, but just to make sure, actually extracted some benefits as well. I want to add, you know, that the Prophet ﷺ, he took a seal in order that Herakl would accept it. Taking a seal, which is like a ring, to seal the letters, to make sure it's stamped. That's from the wasa'il, from the tools that the Prophet of Allah, he was flexible about it. So somebody would say, how come this is really following the Christian, footsteps? So when they said to the Prophet of Allah that the letters will not be read and accepted except if they have been what? Stamped, Prophet of Allah accepted it. It's very important to know this, that the Prophet of Allah accepted to make a ring in order to stamp, which is not from the Muslim etiquettes, to stamp letters. We don't stamp letters. So he's to stamp it, because those people will not read anything if it's stamped. That's a very important issue. Also in that letter, he started with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So regardless whom that letter was sent to, Prophet of Allah had used the Muslim way of writing the letter. Third issue, that he's straight to the point. He's calling him to Islam, straight to the point. There's no wasting time. Also in that letter, there is as well showing reverence. To whom? To Herakl. He's telling him how you will rule. You are the great man. It's good as well to tempt his heart. Because if this man embraces Islam, everybody will embrace Islam. Also, in that letter there is targhib and tarheeb. If you notice that, if you look at the letter, there is, if you embrace Islam, Allah will reward you. If you don't, then this sin of the farmers will be upon you, the Arisin. The last issue is the verse. يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم. This is the verse which is mentioned in that letter. Now there is here a discussion between the scholars regarding that verse, because that verse, according to some narrations, is being sent down because of Wafd Najran, the delegation of Najran who are Christians. When they came to the Prophet of Allah, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had sent this verse, which is to challenge them, to bring your children and your women and yourselves, and we bring ourselves and women and children, and we will invoke the curse of Allah upon the lives, which we call it al-mubahala. This is mubahala. Right, now that verse, some of the scholars, according to the narrations, they say that it's been revealed for that. فقل تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتهل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. They said this is in the delegation of Najran, which is the 9 after Hijrah. But when is this letter being sent? Anybody else tell me? Roughly. The year, which is what? 6 after Hijrah, between 6, the last, because Dhul Qa'dah is the Hudaybiyah. And we had Khaybar, we're going to come. Khaybar is in Muharram, according to the authentic narration. So it's between those months. So the Prophet of Allah had sent these letters, and also Mu'tah later on, straight away after Khaybar. So we have this event. So in those times, the Prophet of Allah, he sent the letters. So if he sent it in the year, beginning of 7th, or the end of the 6th, that poses a problem. Because in that letter here, he sent this verse. And according to those narrations, the verse was narrated what? 3 years later, 2.5 years later. So the reconciliation here is one of the following. Either, number one is that if these narrations are authentic, we will discuss that, then either that the revelation was twice, there's 2 reasons, one here and one there, so 2 reasons for revelation, it was revealed here and there as well. Second issue, that is, the Prophet of Allah, he said it as in his words and became a verse later on, as well the scholars, they say that. Or it's, well, and all of these are not really strong ones, or which is the narration itself, they're not authentic. And actually this comes from the verses. Those verses, in terms of that the come to the delegation, as in the reason for revelation of them is the delegation of Najran, comes from 3 ways, and those 3 ways are not authentic. We have other narrations as well, they come to negotiate this verse, that they were revealed actually for the Jews before they were driven out of their land. And we're talking now here, the year 5 after Hijrah, and before that. And that is why Imam al-Bukhari, rahimahullah, he was not really championing that verse to be in that letter. But actually, even if it is in that letter, it's an indication that that verse was revealed before. So the correct opinion, those verses were revealed for the Jews. So Ahl al-Kitab here, who is that? The Jews. Because Ahl al-Kitab could be Jews, it could be Christians, the people of the book. So those verses were revealed for the people of the Jews. And the Jews after that, they were driven out. And they went, the people of Banu Nadir, like, who is Bilal? Where is that? Give me names. Huyay ibn Akhtar, the leader of Banu Nadir, he is in Khaybar. And who else as well? Was being killed, assassinated. Ka'b bin Ashraf, no, it's not there. Ibn al-Haqiq, you remember that? We'll discuss his name as well. He was killed as well there. Who killed him? Abdullah ibn Atiq. You remember that? Muhammad ibn Nasr, he killed Ka'b bin Ashraf. Yes? Right. So anyway, those verses were revealed before. That's why the Prophet used them to send them to Herakl. So all these benefits we have, alhamdulillah, learned. And it's the only letter which is authentic, in text-wise. Okay? Right. It was sent by who? You got it there? We call him, yeah? Dihya al-Kalbi. Dihya al-Kalbi. Right. You sent by Dihya al-Kalbi. Right. Now, the letter is going to be read by our brother here, doctor, and we have to put in our mind that they are what? History. All of them. All of them history. In terms of text-wise. They've been sent. Text-wise, we can't verify them. So, now go to the following letter. We have finished, isn't it?
Yeah, just bit of end of Herakl is there, and then letter to Herakl.
Okay, go to the end of Herakl.
Page 288. Fifth paragraph. Heraclius was so impressed with what he had heard that he presented Dihya bin Khalifa radiallahu anhu, the bearer of the letter, with money and expensive robes. Heraclius then went back to
Herakl, Dihya ibn Khalifa al-Kalbi. Does it say the Kalbi?
Not here, but at the beginning.
Okay, it's Kalbi. Okay, al-Kalbi. Okay.
Heraclius then went back to Hims, where he summoned his chiefs and courtiers in a closed assembly and addressed them. O Romans, if you desire safety and guidance so that your kingdom shall be firmly established, follow this prophet. The gathering took flight like wild asses, but found the doors closed.
That means donkeys. Yeah. With this American. Now.
But they found the doors closed. When Heraclius saw his nobles' opposition to the message of Islam, he called them back and added, "What I just said was to test your constancy and faith. I am now constancy, yes. Okay. I am now satisfied of your firmness and devotion." The courtiers lowered their heads, pleased at his words.
Okay, those the things that are all over history. Can't even verify that. The end of what happened between him and Dihya ibn Khalifa al-Kalbi. Now,
these details make it clear that by then Heraclius had seen the truth of the Prophet ﷺ's message, but his love for his throne overpowered him and he failed to embrace Islam.
So, knowing that the Prophet of Allah is true is not enough, is it? We said that, didn't we? Yeah, last time. He knew he was, but he did not embrace Islam. Now, which we call submission.
In Allah's sight, Heraclius stands guilty on his own account and because of his people who remain misguided. At the end of his mission, Dihya bin Khalifa returned to Medina via Husma, where Banu Jazam ambushed him, seizing all his possessions.
Yes, seized him.
Seized all his possessions. He escaped to Medina and reported the incident to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ dispatched Zayd bin Haritha radiallahu anhu at the head of 500 men. Zayd launched a sniper attack on the bandits, killing them in large numbers and capturing 100 women and children. 1,000 camels and 500 goats were seized as booty.
All of that history.
Zayd bin Rifa'a Jazami, a chief of the Juzam tribe, hurried to Medina. Since he and some people of his tribe had already embraced Islam, and he had helped Dihya radiallahu anhu when he was under attack by the bandits, the Prophet ﷺ returned the booty and the prisoners.
Okay, all that history. Now.
Letter to Harith bin Abu Shammar Ghassani. The Prophet ﷺ next sent a letter with Shuja'a bin Wahb Asadi to Damascus, where Heraclius, viceroy, Harith bin Abu Shammar Ghassani was ruler. Harith responded to the letter with anger. He flung it, saying, who has the boldness to conquer my land? He prepared to wage war on the Muslims and told Shuja to notify the Prophet ﷺ of an approaching war. When Harith asked his overlord, Heraclius, for permission to fight the Prophet ﷺ, permission was denied. Retreating from his warlike position, Harith presented clothes and riches to Shuja bin Wahab and saw him off graciously.
Okay, also is that all of that history?
Letter to Amir of Basra is intercepted. Next, the Prophet ﷺ wrote to the ruler of Basra and invited him to Islam. When his envoy Harith bin Umayr Azdi radiallahu anhu arrived at Mu'ta in southern Jordan, he was beheaded by Sharahbil bin Amr Ghassani. Harith was the only messenger of the Prophet ﷺ to lose his life in carrying out his mission. The Prophet ﷺ was grief-stricken at Harith radiallahu anhu's execution and found the act so blameworthy that he later waged war against Sharahbil. That expedition was to be known as Battle of Mu'ta.
Well, nothing authentic in terms of the story, but we know that he's been killed, and that was one of the reasons that triggered the Battle of Mu'ta later on. Now, number 7.
Letter to Hawda bin Ali, chief of Yamama. The Prophet ﷺ addressed him the following letter. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, from the Prophet Muhammad to Hawda bin Ali. Blessed are they who follow guidance. Be it known to you that my religion will hold sway over whatever area camels and horses can ever cover. Embrace Islam that you may find peace. I shall keep intact what lies in your possession. This letter was sent through Sulayd bin Amiri radiallahu anhu. Hawda received him with respect and gave him gifts. He also wrote in reply, what shall I say in praise of that to which you call me? I am the poet and orator of my people, and my reputation encompasses the whole of Arabia. Entrust to me a part of your dominion, and I shall serve you. When the Prophet ﷺ received the letter, he remarked, I shall not give him even a piece of land if he asks for it. He will himself meet his doom along with his possessions. Allah died shortly afterwards while the Prophet ﷺ was still engaged in the conquest of Makkah.
As I said, history. All of that history. Okay, we're just reading it just because we want to read the book. Go ahead.
Letter to the ruler of Bahrain. The Prophet ﷺ sent Ala bin al-Hadrami with a letter inviting Mundhir to Islam. Mundhir accepted to call to Islam, and so did some of his subjects. Others, however, continued to follow Judaism, while some practiced Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism, Magians. And they were even the Prophet ﷺ, and even up to the Umar Khattab used to take tribute from the Magians. And this is very important because the tribute is not only for the Christians and the Jews who live in the Muslim country, even the ones who have other religions, because some of the scholars, they said only the Christians and the Jews, and some they include the Magians, the Zoroastrians, but the Zoroastrians, that opened the gates, so there is no proof to say it's only the three. So any person, regardless of his religion, if he's under the Muslim country, if he doesn't want to embrace Islam, then he will pay a tribute, and he doesn't have to forcefully embrace Islam if he's not a Christian or a Jew. So it could be any religion. Now,
conscious of the Prophet ﷺ's status as spiritual and temporal head of the Muslim world, Mundhir asked the Prophet ﷺ how to deal with the non-Muslims in his realm. The Prophet ﷺ wrote back instructing him to leave the Muslims as they were and to collect the jizya tax from the Jews and the Zoroastrians. He allowed Mundhir to continue ruling as long as he stayed on the path of righteousness.
Well, as I said, again, we can't really verify that, but we know that the Prophet of Allah took the jizya from that. We know for that as well that the people of Bahrain There was the ones who embraced Islam. They used to love the Prophet ﷺ so much. When they came to the Prophet of Allah to visit him, delegation from them they came. Actually, as soon as the wudu was brought to the Prophet of Allah, the Prophet of Allah commanded for a wudu to be brought in order to teach them as well, the wudu. As soon as that water started dripping from him, they just fought for it. And what they did, they were even took the water which is into the sand, mixed with the sand to take it, and as well rub themselves with it. They kissed him in terms of his kissing his hands. He kissed the Prophet ﷺ's hands. And the Prophet asked them, why are you doing this? He said, oh, Messenger of Allah, we want Allah to love us. So by loving you, that we want Allah to love us. He said, well, shall I inform you something that if you do it, then you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then he told him better than, it is no problem, because the Prophet ﷺ's items, sweat, his wudu and everything to do with him, except of a number of issues, like for example the excrement and the urine and the blood, all of that is to be unauthentic, but the rest is you could seek barakah through it. But the Prophet was directing them to something else to seek barakah through, and also he is giving the permissibility of taking barakah tabarruk from his items. The first masjid was established after the Prophet ﷺ, Masjid in Medina, outside the Arabian Peninsula, is Masjid of Banu Abdul Qais in Bahrain, and it's a place called Juwatha. It's the first masjid that was actually established in Bahrain, Masjid Banu Abdul Qais, or Abdul Qais, and those people, they were a tribe. So we can't change the name because it's the name of a tribe, because Abdul Qais is not really a loud name. Qais is not one of the names of Allah. And they are in a place called Juwatha in Bahrain. So they used to love the Prophet ﷺ so much. Now,
letter to the rulers of Oman. It was only after the conquest of Mecca that the Prophet ﷺ sent Amr bin As radiallahu anhu to the joint rulers of Oman, the two brothers, Abd and Jaifar. All his previous letters to rulers, near and far, had been sent immediately after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. In this letter, the Prophet ﷺ informed the two brothers of his mission to acquaint men with the truth of Islam and the dangers of disbelief. He warned them that if they rejected Islam, they would pay in this world and the next, for Islam would prevail. Abd was the first one to meet with Amr radiallahu anhu, and they talked at great length. What is your message? Abd asked. We call people to Allah who is one, peerless, and we ask them to abandon all other deities and to bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the servant and messenger of Allah. Amr explained. Abd posed another question. What does your prophet enjoin? Amr radiallahu anhu replied, he commands us to obey Allah and forbids us to disobey him. He ordains good deeds, kindness to kith and kin, and prohibits excess, adultery, liquor, and the worship of stones, idols, and the cross. Abd confided, what a good thing he calls us towards. Had my brother also supported me, we would have set out to pledge loyalty to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to testify as to his prophethood. Unfortunately, my brother is more fond of his kingship than of obeying another. Amr said, if your brother accepts Islam, then the Prophet ﷺ will keep his kingdom intact. However, he will take some wealth by way of collecting charity from the rich and distribute it to the poor and needy. Abd commented, that is very nice. Then he asked, what is charity? Amr explained the concept to him in detail. However, when Amr referred to the possession of livestock being subject to zakah or wealth tax, Amr said doubtfully, I don't know whether my people will accept that. It should be Abd said doubtfully.
Yeah. But it's all a bit unauthentic. You said from the beginning. I'm just because it's very important to know it's authentic. As I said, we're going to talk about it after we finish. Go ahead.
Abd then took Amr bin As radiallahu anhu to his brother Jaifar, who was also given the letter. Jaifar asked Amr radiallahu anhu, as to what the Quraysh had done. They all accepted Islam, and if you embrace Islam, you will be safe, or else our cavalry will trample your land and wipe out its greenery. Ja'far asked for a day's reprieve, and on the following day he made a show of his military power. Nevertheless, he consulted with his brother in private, and the next day both the brothers accepted Islam and left Amr radiallahu anhu free to collect charity. They helped him against those who opposed the collection.
Okay, the last one.
Expedition
Okay.
of
Before
Khaybar.
that, from those letters we could see that the Islamic message is universal. It's being sent to everybody around the Arabian Peninsula. And we had Orientalists who wrote books to make or to put doubt into those letters that has been sent. We know that they've been sent, but we don't know the text. They put doubt that the Arabs are not really strong enough to go and talk to these great empires. The Arabs, Muhammad is not strong enough. He hasn't got enough power to talk to these great empires, which is the empire of Byzantines and the empire of Kisra, which is Khosrus, the Persian Empire. But we do, and then they, for example, they found letters which to prove this is to the contrary. Well, the second of these letters prove it first of all to be authentic, and then we will discuss it. So these letters are not really being authenticated according to their system of authentication. You know how much they spent regarding the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you heard about them, the Dead Sea Scrolls, to prove that the Christianity is correct, but actually it was to the contrary. It was proving that the letters which is being actually distributed to the Christians are being made by a liar. And this liar was really coinciding with the era and the time when Mr. Paul, so it's not Christianity, it's Paulism. All the Christianity actually now is Paulism, Mr. Paul. And if you are not afraid about these scrolls, why you are so secretive about it? You know that they have, made only very few people, because the Jews found them in the Dead Sea, and those Dead Sea Scrolls, and they go back to very old times. So if if you see documents, why are you so secretive about it? They found them in 1980, and there was a fuss about it to release them. And after 10 years, they released bits of them, not all of them, because there are bits there that would contradict the whole theology of the Christendom. And that's why they did not show it. And there's a program, I would like my brothers as well to see it, which is a program made by, I can't remember, by one of these major TV, BBC, I can't remember, but it's been sent to me as a file. And I've seen it. It's a documentary called The Dead Sea Scrolls, where the two people, the main two people, they're talking about it. One who is a Jewish rabbi, and the other one is supposed to be Christian, and both are professors. If anybody saw it, please tell me. One professor Christian, and one professor Jewish, the rabbi, and of course the commentator, which you can't see his face. And it looks like the commentator at the end is biased towards the Christian point of view. That Christian was fascinating me, that the thing is that he says that those scrolls actually, they're not really what the Christian is presenting, and he's supposed to be Christian. That they're not really supposed to be, we're talking about Christmas, and Christmas is to be like, harmony, if somebody slaps you on the side of the cheek and tell the other one. But actually the scrolls is the contrary. It's come and slaughter you, let me kill you. It's all of that. So he says that actually that this is Paulism, and he's himself saying it. And the commentator says that actually it coincides with the time where Mr. Paul had claimed the vision when he was going to Damascus. Very important. And then at the end of it, because the way he's talking, he's so close to Islam, they're asking him, you're Muslim or you're Christian? So he says, I'm not a Muslim. No. He says, no. He said, yes, I took my information from Islam. So it's supposed to be a Christian doctor or professor. Very good program. As I said, it's called Dead Sea Scroll. I'm sure it's on YouTube, okay? And very good to watch it, just to see as well some of the information regarding that. Coming back, these Orientalists, they have found documents which we haven't really seen or haven't really authenticated like they have authenticated the Dead Sea Scrolls to say that there was no letters being sent by the Prophet of Allah to those monarchs because he is insignificant and is not powerful enough to send these letters. Right. Remember, those letters were being sent to the kings in terms of time-wise. There's a difference among the scholars because Imam al-Bukhari, he says some of the letters are actually in the year 9 after Hijrah. And this is in the year beginning of 7 and the end of 6. Because of the verse, remember that verse. But we say that actually Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he is not concerned about the timing more than he's concerned what is in the narration. And the correct opinion, they are actually in that time. Some of them being sent while he was in Hudaybiyah, some have been sent after Hudaybiyah, but in that gap before the reopening or repossession of Mecca. Now,
expedition of Ghaba or Ghaba.
No.
During the 10 years of peace that ensued with the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Prophet ﷺ was freed of the constant hostility of the Quraysh. However, his other source of worry, the Jewish tribes, continued to plague him and the Muslims. They had gone back on agreements and incited other tribes to form a confederacy against the Muslims. All of Khaybar and the area north of it formed their territory from where they launched campaigns against the Muslims. 3 days before the Prophet ﷺ was about to lead an expedition to Khaybar, a small clash called the Battle of Ghaba took place.
Or that al-Qat. Both names are correct. Now,
it was in the month of al-Muharram, 7 after Hijri.
It's actually 3 nights before Khaybar. Because Muharram is the date of the month of the Khaybar. So 3 nights before the Battle of Khaybar. Now,
the Prophet ﷺ had sent his camels to graze in Ghaba near Uhud. With the herd...
Ghaba is the place where the Prophet ﷺ, he had asked for his pulpit to be made. So his pulpit wood was made from what? The Ghaba woods, the Ghaba trees. Now,
with the herd where the Prophet ﷺ slave Rabah, a herdsman, and Salama bin Akwa, who was riding Abu Talha's horse. Suddenly, Abdurrahman bin
Uyayna ibn Usman
Fazari and his men swooped down, and after killing the herdsman, they rode away with all the camels.
So they killed the shepherd and they took all the camels. Now,
Salama left his horse with Rabah and climbed a hill. Facing Medina, he sounded the alarm. 3 times he called, Ya Sabaha. Then he went after the thieves.
Ya Sabaha, that means what a disaster. Oh.
Then he went after the thieves, launching arrows at them. Unafraid at being alone, he sang a war song. Take this, I'm the son of Akwa, and today is the day of a suckling. Salama was very effective in harassing the thieves, and he killed several of them. If a horseman turned back to give chase, Salama would shoot at him from a tree. If they entered a hilly pass, he would scale the hill and set off a rock slide. In desperation, thieves set all the camels free, but Salama continued to shoot at them. Then the thieves tried to lighten their mounts by throwing away 30 sheets and 30 lances. Salama would cover them with a pile of stones so that they might be easily located, and he would go on after the horsemen. After one such incident, the thieves sat down at a narrow turning of a mountain pass while Salama sat on the peak. 4 of them spotted him and moved towards him. Salama said to them, Do you know who I am? I am Salama bin Akwa. I can easily catch anybody running among you, but none of you can catch me. The men went back. Shortly afterwards, Salama noticed the cavalrymen of the Prophet ﷺ riding out from between the trees. The first to come in sight was Akhram, followed by Qatada and Miqdad radiallahu anhu. Akram and Abdurrahman met in combat. Although Akram managed to wound Abdurrahman's horse, he himself was killed by Abdurrahman, who then took his horse. Qatada rode up and killed Abdurrahman with lance. Seeing their leader fall, the rest of the bandits took off with the Muslim cavalrymen in pursuit and Salama still chasing them on foot. Shortly before sunset, the thieves reached the mountain pass of Dhuqarad. They were thirsty and exhausted, but Salama's arrows would not let them get near the water. The Prophet ﷺ and his companions on horseback met up with Salama after sunset. Salama radiallahu anhu submitted, "O Messenger of Allah, they are all thirsty, and if you give me 100 men, I will catch them by the back of their necks and bring them to you." The Prophet ﷺ said, "O son of Akwa, now that you have the upper hand, show your enemies a little politeness. After all, now they are in the territory of their hosts, Banu Ghatfan." For his extraordinary feats that day, Salama radiallahu anhu received 2 portions of the booty from the Prophet ﷺ, one as a foot soldier and another as a cavalryman. He had the honor of sitting behind the Prophet ﷺ on the camel Azba' and of hearing the Prophet ﷺ declare, "The best cavalryman among us today is Abu Qatada and the best foot soldier is Salama."
Actually, this is hadith sahih, since you can mention in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim and Ahmad, so all that story is authentic. And this is in al-Akwa, where the Prophet was asking him to go and make poetry. So he made poetry, where he said, وَالْيَوْمَ يَوْمُ الرُّضَّعِ وَالْيَوْمَ يَوْمُ الرُّضَّعِ. This is the day of suckling. So it's a story which is to indicate first of all, the Prophet ﷺ generosity, and also the companions responding to the Prophet of Allah's command. The Prophet told them to be nice. And it was a small, we could say it's not a battle, it's an expedition, or it's a small thing that happened. Right, now we are ready for Khaybar. Yes. Afterwards we're ready for Khaybar. Okay. Okay, none of you mentioned change the Z into a DH. It's Adwa. Adwa is the name of the she camel. Okay. And that's an honoring of Salama al-Akwa, where he put it behind the Prophet and he gave him 2 shares of the war booty. And as we have said before, the share of the war booty is to be that 1 for the fighter, 3 for the riders. That means 2 for the horse and 1 for the rider. So if he's riding a horse, it would be 3. But the Prophet of Allah could add as well to another person because of his carriage. He would give him more. Right. Let's just go to Khaybar now.
Page 296, chapter 24, the Battle of Khaybar. Conquest of Khaybar. In Al-Muharram of 7 after Hijri, the Prophet ﷺ announced the march to Khaybar.
Okay. Regarding the date, Muharram, there is, as I said, difference amongst the scholars. Some they say it's Muharram, some they say it's Safar or Rabi' al-Awwal. And there's not much difference anyway. We're talking about 3 to 2 months. 3 to 2 months, the difference. But it is definitely in the beginning of the 7th after Hijrah. And it's definitely before Mu'tah, and it's after Al-Hudaybiyah.
Those who had failed to join the expedition to Hudaybiyah asked to go along, but the Prophet ﷺ announced that only those who had already proved their resolve for jihad were to go. Those who stayed behind were to be left out of the expedition and the spoils. And so it was that the 1,400 companions who had taken the pledge under the tree near Hudaybiyah marched out.
Because in Surah Al-Fath that Allah had received, Allah's Messenger had received, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَعَدَكُمُ اللَّهُ مَغَانِمَ كَثِيرًا. Allah had promised you a lot of war booty. قَالْ تَأْخُذُونَهَا. You, the ones who are in Al-Hudaybiyah, you will be what? Taking that war booty. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told him already that there will be a war booty, a lot of war booty that will be taken for you. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ had taken only the ones who are with him when they went to the Al-Hudaybiyah. Those are the Allah where he says, لَقَدْ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِذْ يُبَايِعُونَكَ تَحْتَ الشَّجَرَةِ فَعَلِمَ مَا فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. This is the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he declares his pleasure and being pleased for those who are the ones who give the pledge to the Prophet underneath the tree. Now, so the war booty means what? Khaybar. That's what it means. Okay. Now,
leaving Medina in the care of Saba bin Arfata Ghafari, the Prophet ﷺ set out along a well-known caravan route. Halfway down, he turned his troops to another route that led to Khaybar so as to block the Jews' escape to Syria. The last night of the march saw the Prophet ﷺ and his troops camped close to Khaybar while the Jews remained unaware of their presence. The Prophet ﷺ led the Fajr prayer in darkness.
Before we go to the Fajr prayer, first of all, just to make sure that you understand what is Khaybar. Khaybar is not far away from the Medina. It's about 60 to 80 miles away from the Medina to the north. It's to the north, so it's not to the side of the direction of Mecca. Mecca is in the south, so it's above. It's between Tabuk and between Medina. So it's the north of Medina, and it's actually a land which is high above the sea level. And that is why it's a land where there's lots of agriculture, lots of trees. Because when you are high, you're bound to get rain, and you're bound to get lots of weather which is suitable for growing like dates and other things. And it was known as well with lots of springs of water, the Khaybar. And the ones used to, and even there was a market in it, a well-known market, and this market was called the market of Al-Nata. And it was as well a province that belongs to the tribe of Banu Ghatafan. So Khaybar is a province belongs to Ghatafan tribe. And because of its place, which is in economy, it's an economical sort of very important place, lots of merchants had lived into it. So those people who are craftsmen, very good in selling and buying, they lived in that place. And it was actually a mixture of Arabs and Jews. And those Jews, they were increased after the incidents that took place in Medina where the Prophet was driven out those Jews who had proved to be treacherous from Banu Qaynuqa and Banu Nadir and finally Banu Qurayza at the Battle of the Trench in the year 5 after Hijrah. Before, there were not that many, but the Jews before those tribes, they were, especially Banu Nadir, before those Jews had arrived, those Jews, they were peaceful. They did not attack the Prophet ﷺ, did not ally themselves with those who were enemies of the Prophet of Allah, until the Banu Nadir, they were driven out. And that's when the Banu Nadir driven out there, some of them they've gone to Adru'at al-Sham, and some of them they went to Khaybar, it's not far away from Medina. And when they went to Khaybar, actually in that moment they started like bringing out those hatred from the Jews who are residing in the Khaybar. The Jews of Khaybar were not really that hateful of Islam or the Prophet. So even they brought their drums, their tambourines, and they were brought as well the women to sing regarding what happened to them. They've been driven out. And of course, when we speak about al-Nadir, we speak about the main two people, which is, as Bilal had said, Huyay ibn al-Akhtab and Ibn Abi al-Huqayq, whom the Prophet ﷺ, Ibn Abi al-Huqayq, had assassinated. Can anybody tell me how was the fate of Huyay ibn al-Akhtab? Can anybody tell me how was the fate? Yeah? No, he was not stabbed. Huyay ibn al-Akhtab. Huyay ibn al-Akhtab is in the battle, if you remember, of Al-Khandaq. When he came to Ka'b al-Quradi, he said to him to open the gate, and he said to him, "You bringing me disaster. Prophet Muhammad, you'll never be betrayed me. I wouldn't want to see your face. And he started convincing him. And you know, lots of Arabs came, and all of them, if you don't ally yourself with them, you've had it, you've left out. So he opened the gate for him, and he went inside, and he changed his mind. And he said to him, you know, you have to, and I will give you my word, I will put my fate with your fate, if you remember. And after that, they betrayed Banu Qurayza. And because of their betrayal, there was the Battle of Banu Qurayza. There were all of them, as Sa'd ibn Mu'adh had declared the rule of Allah, the rule of his, what is his judgment, which is the judgment of Allah it was. And all the fighters to be killed, and the women and the children to be war booty. Now, from those who were to be killed, Khaybar ibn al-Akwa, you remember? And he sat down to have his head to be cut off, to be killed. And he was asked, and he was looking at the Prophet. I never had any doubt. I never had any, or my hatred to you never been shook, never been shaken, never been decreased. Still have the hatred. So we've been having the hatred to the Prophet of Allah even when his death taking place. Okay? His death is taking place. So he was killed, and even his hatred is still in his heart. Huyay ibn al-Akhdar. Who is the daughter of Huyay ibn al-Akhdar? Safiya bint Huyay. She's going to now be what? From the war booty. Because her father has been killed anyway, the year of 5 after Hijrah. She's now at the moment, Safiya, she is not with, she's not having the father of her Huyay, but actually she's going to be in Khaybar, and she's going to fall as a war booty, and she'll end up as well to be the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're going to see that, inshallah, as well, the story of hers in a minute. So, Khaybar, as soon as those people, Ibn Abi Huqayq and Huyay ibn al-Akhdar, moved to that, and they were started now to ally themselves with all the people who are enemies of Allah. Not only that, when the Prophet ﷺ moved towards Khaybar, this hypocrite Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, may Allah curse him, he died as a kafir, of course, he's a munafiq. He sent a letter to the chiefs of Khaybar and telling them that Muhammad is about to attack you. Don't be scared. A few ragtag, they're not really nothing. They've got even few little weapon with them. So fight them. Just show you that the hypocrites were billah. So as soon as the words had arrived to the people of Khaybar, that's when they have started now making allies, especially from those people who are around from Banu Ghatafan, because we said Ghatafan is the tribe where this province of Khaybar belongs to them. So they started having, allies from Banu Ghatafan. And even not only that, they said to them that we will give you half of our dates if you accept. Half of our dates if you accept to be with us and if you win. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described those hypocrites, He was truthful when He said, قال بشر المنافقين بأن لهم عذابا أليما. Give the tidings to those munafiqun, to those hypocrites, that they will be having what? A great torment. الذين يتخذون الكافرين أولياء. Those are the ones who take the kafirin أولياء من دون المؤمنين. That is, they don't take the believers, they take the disbelievers. So those munafiqun, they take the disbelievers, not the believers, to be awliya, close companions. أَيَبْتَغُونَ عِنْدَهُمُ الْعِزَّةَ فَإِنَّ الْعِزَّةَ لِلَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Are they taking or asking for triumph and honor by allying themselves with them and taking them as friends? Verily, the honor and the triumph is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a number of verses describes the munafiqun are to be the ones who are the most dangerous to the Muslims, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He have as well said in His verses that He had promised them a hellfire forever, and Allah's curses upon them. So now, as our doctor just recited, that when the Prophet ﷺ, he come back from Hudaybiyah, from that, which is about in Dhul Hijjah of the year 6 after Hijrah, in the year 7 after Hijrah, Muharram, that's when he marched forth towards Khaybar. Because, why? Because those people, they wanted to attack the Prophet. So the reason why he went to attack Khaybar, because Khaybar, they have decided and they have allied themselves with the enemies, even with the Jews, even with the Arabs, or Mushrikun, even they had allies from the hypocrites in the Medina. So they proved to be treacherous. So that's now the decision to clear them out from the Arabian Peninsula totally. Okay? And those who are treacherous, because some Jews they were not treacherous, and they started to sail in the Medina. Ka'b ibn Mati', Ka'b al-Ahbar, who embraced Islam at the time of Umar al-Khattab, he was one of the Jews. But those who proved to be treacherous have to be driven out, regardless of their religion. So, the Prophet ﷺ, he took those believers, as we have said, the ones in Al-Hudaybiyah, and in that, on that journey before he arrived, there was Salama Amr al-Akwa, radiallahu anhu, is a companion. His companion was asked by one of the companions to give some shi'r, means poetry. And this poetry is very powerful. So this person, he says the following words. Allahumma lawla anta mahtadayna. Oh Allah, had it been for you, we've never been guided. وَلَا تَصَدَّقْنَا وَلَا صَلَّيْنَا. We will never give sadaqah nor prayer. فَاغْفِرْ فِدَاءً لَكَ مَتَّقَيْنَا. Forgive for us because we have, as much as we have piety towards you. وَثَبِّتْ الْأَقْدَامَ إِلَّا قَيْنَا. And affirm our feet when we meet the enemies. وَأَنزِلًا سَكِينَةً عَلَيْنَا. And also give us tranquility. And إِنَّا إِذَا صِحَ بِنَا أَتَيْنَا. If the call was upon us, we will respond. And then وَبِالسِّيَاحِ عَوَّلُوا عَلَيْنَا. They have shouted upon us. وَإِنْ أَرَادُوا فِتْنَةً أَبَيْنَا. If they want to pick fitna to us, we will refuse. We will refuse. The Prophet ﷺ, as soon as he heard these words, so he said, who is that? He said to him, Messenger of Allah, it is Amir ibn al-Akwa, radiallahu anhu. He said, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy upon him. So Prophet ﷺ, when he was saying that, those words, the companion said, Messenger of Allah, that means he's going to be shaheed. Any prophet, any companion, but Prophet ﷺ, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, he's going to be what? Shaheed as a martyr. So he said, rahimahullah. And that means Allah's Messenger already had given him that he is a shaheed. He's going to be killed in the battle. And the Jannah is his, because he said, rahimahullah. Subhanallah. Those poetry, actually, when you look at them, those poetry are the same poetry that we have discussed before when the Prophet of Allah was digging the trench. So, I don't know if you remember it. Same poetry that we have the trench, because I just noticed as well the similarity between that battle of the trench, poetry where the Prophet of Allah was digging with the companions. The companions said, and they are from Abdullah ibn Rawah, radiallahu anhu arda. So it could be that maybe Amr al-Akwa actually repeating the words of Abdullah ibn Rawah, the same poetry it is. And it's a great poetry. So, Amr al-Akwa is going to be a shaheed, going to be shaheed in the battle of Khaybar. Also on the way, because this is not being mentioned, it's very important as well to mention it here. That is, on the way, the companions, as soon when they go up, that means up a hill, they will raise their voices. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Arbi'u ala anfusikum. Take it easy upon yourself. Lower your voices. Arbi'u ala anfusikum. Innakum, verily, you are not la tad'una asamma, wala abkama. You're not really calling upon asam, who is deaf, or one who does not speak. Innama tad'una sami'an. You are calling upon the all-hearing, and He is qariban. He is also close to you, and He is with you. And this is as well authentic in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. So this is a very important issue, that when you are making dhikr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you make it in a way that you don't disturb the others. Because if a person raises up his voice with takbir, definitely he is going to disturb the one next to him. Especially when the people finish the prayer. It's important that you do your adhkar not in a loud voice. At the beginning of the Prophet ﷺ, it was, yes, كَانَ يُهَلِّلُ بِهِنْ, as a Sahih and Muslim, as was a narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas. But later on, the Prophet of Allah told the companions to call upon Allah, to make your dhikr in a lower voice. not to disturb. Because if you are making dhikr with loud next to somebody, if he wants to make his dhikr, he can't. He has to go along with you. He has to go with you. Or if he wants to go his own dhikr, he has to raise his voice higher than the one who's next to him. True or not? This is obvious. And that is why the Quran could be a harm to somebody if you are using it the wrong way. If you read the Quran too much, for example, loud next to somebody who is ill, he wants to sleep, and you're raising up your voice and you think, oh, Quran is good, and you're shouting your head off, or you're reciting loud, and the person wants to sleep, and you say, brother, you can't complain, it's Quran. Well, I can. So I cannot. Even our Shaykh al-Albani goes to the extent of that the adhan is to be made in the most loudspeakers, because the person who had made the adhan, Bilal ibn Abi Rabah, he had to climb up to make his voice as loud as possible. But when you make the iqamah, it should not be on the loudspeaker. And that's very delicate sort of fiqh by the Shaykh rahimahullah. He said, I was in Mecca, and because I was ill, I wanted to do my prayer inside my hotel. So the adhan was called, and I'm about to make my prayer. While I'm doing the prayer inside the house, or inside his hotel, whatever, I can't remember, he heard this iqamah loud. It disturbed me. That iqamah is not supposed to be on the speaker, it's supposed to be for the people who are inside. It's not to be for the people outside. From the negative things that resulted of making the iqamah on the loudspeaker, the people, they don't come anymore in the adhan. They wait until the iqamah. So he said, come to the adhan. I said, no, we went to the iqamah. So the adhan became the iqamah. So they're going to miss what? At least takbirat al-ihram, not to say the first or the second rak'ah. They're going to miss the takbirat al-ihram. But if they don't know when is the iqamah, they will be on alert. Oh, let me just come. I'm going to miss something. So as soon as they then come, we'll go. So in these days, people, they call it the iqamah. True or not? The people. Yes, we're living in the, yeah. They will leave the iqamah. When the iqamah comes in, and then a rush will come. And that's a delicate fiqh from a man of fiqh, faqih al-asr, Shaykh al-Albani rahmatullah alayhi. And also from those people who are making the dhikr. The imam, he could raise up his voice in order to teach. For the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when you finish the Maghrib and you finish the Fajr, and before you speak to anybody, and before you change your place, you say, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu al-mulku wa lahu al-hamdu yuhyi wa yumitu ala kulli shay'in qadir. The supplication that you know about, but I'm going to give you now another addition, which is very good as well. And that is in Shaykh al-Albani's Silsila al-Sahiha to that, where the Prophet of Allah used to say it loud. Hallala bihim. He used to say it what? Loud. Now, later on, the Prophet of Allah, he told the companions not to say it loud. So, loud at the beginning, but sometimes if the Imam wants to make it loud for the purpose of what? Of teaching. So, for the purpose of teaching, until he sees that the people have learned from him, then he should not really keep saying them loud, because it's going to disturb the people. So, let me now quote for you the hadith that the Shaykh had said. Okay. Silsila Sahiha, and it's number 3160. Prophet Allah used to say at the end of the prayer, when he finishes his salutation, and before he stands up, and he used to raise his voice with it. It's a hadith which you haven't heard before. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه له النعمة وله الفضل وله الثناء الحسن لا إله إلا الله مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون. He used to raise up his voice with it. Now, this is very important as well. Sahih Muslim, there's an addition there, which is يُهَلِّلُ بِهِنَّ دُبُورَ كُلِّ صَلَاةٍ, that he will be making tahleel, and he's raising up his voice with them. So this raising up the voice as well can be testified by Abdullah ibn Abbas, where he says That is, رفع الصوت بالذكر. When the people are finishing the prayer, they used to raise up their voice making the dhikr. It was at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and by which I will know that the people had finished their prayer. All of that, all these ahadith could be used by someone to say that, look, raise up the voice. And he used to say as well, I used to know the finishing of the prayer by the takbir. Takbir means this adhkar, all of that. Now all of this is to be authentic. Now, we say, first of all, the asl, the norm, or the origin, or the principle regarding the adhkar is to mention them in a low voice. And here I mentioned Shaykh al-Albani. And as it's being mentioned in the book and the sunnah, except what is being exempted. So, in the raising up of the voice, there is disturbance on the person who's praying or on the person who's making dhikr, whether he's reciting Quran or not. Especially if that dhikr was in one voice, synchronizing one jama'ah, making jama'ah together. Like they do that in some of the countries where they make this tahlilat al-ashar, la ilaha illallah together. They are not really caring about or paying attention to the Prophet ﷺ's hadith and command, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, kullukum yunaji rabbah. Every one of you is actually calling upon his Lord. فَلَا يَجْهَرْ بَعْضُكُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ بِالْقِرَاءَةِ. Not anyone, let anyone not to raise up his voice with recitation against another. فَتُؤْذُوا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Like that word. That is, you will harm the believers. So he called the Quran here harm, because you have used it in a harmful way, because you're raising up your voice. And also we have another one which is a chapter in Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, Bab al-Zajru an al-Jahri bil-Qira'ati fi as-Salah. It is telling off the person, Zajr, telling off the person not to raise up his voice in the Qira'ah fi as-Salah, because if any person from the people who are praying is going to be harmed with it, he should not be doing it. And Imam al-Shafi'i says in the book of regarding the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says, and I choose for the Imam and the Ma'moom that he should mention Allah and remember Allah after the prayer, and they should, both of these, the Imam and the Ma'moom, the one who's been led, the one who's a leader and the one who's led, to recite their dhikr in a low voice, except if he's an Imam and he wants to teach his people. So he will make his voice loud until he sees that the people have learned from him, and after that he will go to making the dhikr in a low voice. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَجْهَرْ بِصَلَاتِكَ وَلَا تُخَافِتْ بِهَا. Don't make your salah loud, and don't make it without any noise. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ. And so here, وَلَا تُخَافِتْ, that means don't say it in a way that you don't really make it audible to yourself. So you say, that's no problem. But if you say, that means you're not doing anything. So this is, Shaykh al-Albani says, from the fiqh of Imam al-Shafi'i, and ghaya fi al-diqqah. What a way of precision from the Imam rahimahullah. So if it has been established, Shaykh al-Albani says, that is from the sunnah that the Imam sometimes, even in the salah which is low voice, like dhuhr or asr, or the last two rak'ah of the isha, or the last rak'ah of the maghrib, which is low voice, that is from the sunnah sometimes to raise up his voice a little to make the people listen to what he's reciting, to what he's saying. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ's ayat or surah was known in the dhuhr, because the dhuhr is not really loud, is it? It's a silent one. But the Prophet ﷺ used to raise up his voice sometime in order to tell them which surah he used to recite in the dhuhr and which surah he used to recite in the asr, and also in the last two rak'ah of the isha and the last rak'ah of the maghrib. And you know for a fact that the last two rak'ah of the dhuhr and the asr, the last rak'ah of the maghrib and the last two rak'ah of the isha, those people whom they think that it's only the Fatiha, they are totally mistaken. You could make a Fatiha and a surah. And I deliberately, when I pray my dhuhr or asr, my microphone is next to me, in the last two rak'ahs, I recite with a bit of, my voice, but because in the microphone it could be audible. Okay, so I would recite a surah after the Fatiha. So they said, what one sister, she sent her daughter to ask me, did you recite, the little daughter, did you recite a surah after the Fatiha? Because we have to make sujood sahw. That's what they think. If you recite surah. And it is true, come with the madhab al-Shafi'i, make sujood sahw. So Hanafi, maybe it is invalid. Yeah, it's invalid. It will invalid the prayer. So we said that the Prophet ﷺ used that in surah. So just to teach the people, there is a surah as well if you wish, but you always make the third less than the second and the first. You don't make it more, you make it time-wise. Okay, so we are in Khaybar at the moment, and now also, it's just to show you that the army is always remembering Allah. He is marching forward and he's saying Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Not on the music. Imagine the army these days, headphones and they're dancing. Because they don't want to think about anything except that, when they're going to finish, when they're going to receive his salary. And he doesn't want to think about going to fight because he'll be scared. So he had to put something to take his mind off. But those people, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, so the power comes to them. And they've been charged already, mashallah, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Also the Prophet ﷺ, as soon as he arrived to Khaybar, he said the following dua, which we should learn as well. And this dua is in Fiqh al-Sirah, where Shaykh al-Albani make it to Hasan, and this is very important. So when the Muslim had arrived to Khaybar, he said, stop. And then he started beseeching his Lord. To show you that as well, the dua is important. We have learned that in the Battle of Badr, the Battle of Uhud. Yes? Dua. So he said the following dua, which we say it as well every time we enter a village or a town. Allahumma Rabb as-samawati as-sab' wa ma adlam. That is, O Lord, of the seven heavens and whatever they shade. Wa Rabb al-ardina as-sab', and also the Lord of the seven earths. We don't know what the seven earths are. Reality. You know one earth. Wa ma aqlal, and what they have, where they carry. وَرَبَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ وَمَا أَضْلَلْ, and the Lord of the shayateen, the devil, and whatever they have misguided. قال وَرَبَّ الرِّيَاحِ وَمَا أَدْرَيْنَ, and the Lord of the riyah, riyah is the wind, or whatever they have gusted. And then he says, فَإِنَّا نَسْأَلُكَ خَيْرَ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ, for verily we ask you the good of this village, of this town, of this place, وَخَيْرَ أَهْلِهَا, and the good of their inhabitants, and وَخَيْرَ مَا فِيهَا, and the good of what is in it. وَنَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ شَرِّ هَذِهِ الْقَرْيَةِ, and we seek refuge in you from the evil of that village, وَمِنْ شَرِّ أَهْلِهَا, and from the evil of the inhabitants of it, وَمِنْ شَرِّ مَا فِيهَا, and also the evil of what it is in it. So this is to show you, brothers and sisters, who are listening, whether on radio, whether on video, that the army of the Muslim is always in continuous dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, Khaybar army, or the Muslims army, were on the Khaybar fences, so they are now there, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he camped outside Khaybar, and the Jews, they were not really aware. In the morning, the Prophet of Allah, he is doing his Fajr prayer. That's where you have, so all this addition to what we have said. Now,
on the third day, the Prophet ﷺ prayed for victory and a substantial booty. He then ordered the Muslims to attack, and before sunset, the citadel.
You have jumped a lot, is it? Okay, fair inshallah.
The Prophet ﷺ led the Fajr prayer in darkness, and then he mounted his animal to resume the journey to Khaybar. The Jews, meanwhile, carrying spades and baskets, began setting out for their fields. When they saw the Muslims, they rushed back shouting, "By God, Muhammad has appeared with his troops." The Prophet ﷺ remarked to his men, "Allahu Akbar, Khaybar has met its doom." When we appear,
so Allahu Akbar, kharibat Khaybar. Allahu Akbar, kharibat Khaybar. Allahu Akbar, Allah is great. Kharibat Khaybar, that means Khaybar is destroyed. Inna idha nazalna bisahati qawmin fasa'a sabahul munzari. That is, if we come into the courtyard of any people, the land of any people, then it's going to be disaster for them. This is a scary statement for them. If we come to the land of any people, it means enemies. That means they have disaster. As soon as the Jews had seen the Prophet of Allah, they said, Muhammad wal Khamis. Muhammad wal Khamis. Khamis is the army. Muhammad in the army. Muhammad in the army. They were scared straight away. Subhanallah. Just to show you that, if you are upon the deen properly, you will scare your enemy, regardless who he is, before even you start the fight. As long as you have the power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put the terror into the army of the enemies. And if you had this wahm, what is the wahm? The love of the dunya and the hatred of the death and the martyrdom, then Allah will uproot, He says, yanzi', uproot the fear from the heart of your enemies. That means the heart of the enemies already, the fear from the Muslims' army is being planted with roots. And it's there with power. So for it to be taken out, it has to be uprooted. And Allah will take it away. That means there will be no fear. So the armies of the disbelievers will come, the enemies of Allah, to the land of the Muslims, step with their shoes in the land, they carry nothing. Why? Because of us. We are not on our iman. We are not following the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we do so, then just a month distance between us and the enemies, they'll have the terror. They'll be afraid. But now the ummah is nothing. It's like without is sayl. They are concerned about, subhanAllah, amazing. You know, if you look at the Muslim countries, what is happening is disasters. How many people now are into football? Have you seen that the Muslims and these people, they're holding the flag, you know, for the football and hooliganism. Hooliganism is amongst the Muslims as well. And you're not really caring about who's winning and the Muslims being killed and everywhere. They don't care. They don't really learn. Okay? So, to the extent that, you know, listen, if my wife, she is Barcelona supporter, I will divorce her. Because I am Real Madrid. What's that? Wallahi al-Ali al-Azim, some of the people that boycott others from the Muslims because it's a different support to a different team. And both teams are supporting the even non-Muslim teams. I'm not saying to support Muslim teams is good, but I'm just saying even non-Muslim teams. In my country, people, they will, before this World Cup takes place, there are some, now these days it happened the last World Cup, people told me that some people had went and broke everything, glass and cars and everything, the supporters of such and such, I don't know, who was the one? Argentina, is it Argentina? And who was the winning team? Germany, yeah. Who won Germany or Argentina? I don't know, well, I don't know. Germany? Yeah, anyway, some of them, they are having flags of Germany, having some, I wasn't there, but some people told me, it's in my city, I've never had this before. What is this fanatics? What's happening to them? What, they gone crazy? Are they gone crazy, these people? Yeah? Muslim, and even, I remember I've seen on one of the TV channels, a person has been interviewed, it was in the news, and he is in, what was that taking place, this thing? What is the whole thing been taking place? Brazil, was it Brazil? That they are in Brazil, so that the tickets for Brazil is a lot of money. In Brazil, and it was one of the, I can't remember which, but I remember that person, I can't forget his face. He's painting himself blue, which is the flag of Argentina. And when you talk to him, he talks Arabic. I couldn't believe it. I can't forget his face. Argentina flag, and the blue flag. White and blue there. Yeah, and him and his, I don't know, his wife, girlfriend, I don't know what it is. And yeah, talking Arabic, because Arabic channel it was. Yeah, we came here to give supporters, we are supporters of Argentina. Hani'an lakum. MashaAllah. Hooray! You're gonna die, yeah? Making subhanAllah. You companions of Argentina. These people, may Allah guide them. Allah musta'an. Right, so as soon as the Khaybar heard these words, the terror went in their hearts, and they went to their citadels. And the biggest one is Na'im, Citadel Na'im. Okay, go ahead.
The Prophet ﷺ remarked to his men, Allahu Akbar, Khaybar has met his doom. When we appear on the plains of a people, the morning turns gloomy for them.
That means disaster.
The population of Khaybar, which lay 171 kilometers north of Medina, was spread along three main settlements, Nata, Katiba, and Shaq. Nata had three citadels: Hisn Na'am,
Na'am.
Hisn
Na'im.
Na'im.
Actually, Na'im means soft, but it was not soft. It was not a soft, it was the biggest one. Now, this is where the king of Jews there. Marhab. Now.
Hisn Sa'b bin Mu'ad and Hisn Qal'a az-Zubayr. The two forts in Shaq were Hisn Abi and Hisn Nizar, while Katiba had three castles, namely Hisn Qamus, Hisn Watih, and Hisn Salalam. There were a number of other forts and castles in Khaybar, but they were smaller and not as well fortified as those mentioned above. The Prophet ﷺ pitched his tents east of the forts of Nata, out of shooting range. He then charged at Hisn Na'im.
Now.
Na'im.
Who is that child? The Prophet ﷺ?
Yeah. This stronghold of the Jews were well protected, high, and virtually unconquerable. It was their first line of defense and the home of their legendary champion Marhab, who was reputed to have the strength of 1,000 men.
That's true. Now, authentic.
A few days went by.
According to the Jews, of course, they say that it's like 1,000 men. Now.
A few days went by with both sides trading arrows. Then the Prophet ﷺ gave his men news of victory. He announced, "Tomorrow I will give the standard to a man who loves Allah and His Prophet."
Before we do that, Prophet ﷺ, he had given the flag first of all to Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu wa arda. And Abu Bakr, he took the flag, the standard bearer, and he could not open, he could not open the citadel. I'm saying this because we have to say what is for, because this is correct. You know that the Shia, what they say. Prophet ﷺ gave it to Abu Bakr. And there is a narration which is not authentic, that is given as well to Umar. But Abu Bakr is authentic, that he did not have the victory on his hand. As for Umar, it's not authentic, but let's say it's authentic, that Allah did not grant the victory for as well Umar. Then the Prophet ﷺ is giving latan, like he said, for the victory. He said, tomorrow, yes, I see tomorrow, I'm just waiting for you.
Tomorrow, okay.
I'm waiting for tomorrow.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam announced, "Tomorrow I'll give the standard to a man who loves Allah and His Prophet, and who is in turn loved by Allah and His Prophet." The Muslims spent the night in
so Allah, by Allah, I'm going to give it to a man. The Shia says that, look, he's saying, going to give it to a man. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? That means the one before him, then that man. Look at that. But it doesn't mean that. Well, there's no woman in the army anyway. He's giving it to a man. It's like, this is an Arabic speech. لَأُعْطِيَنَّ الرَّايَةَ غَدًا رَجُلًا. It means a person. It doesn't mean a man that are the ones are before him are women. Oh, that's what the Shia say. A man, يُحِبُّ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ, loves Allah and His Messenger. And also, وَيُحِبُّهُ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. This is Maksha. This is the shahada from the Prophet that Allah and His Messenger love him. قال يفتح الله على يديه. Allah will give the victory on his hand. But in terms of courage, who is more courageful? Ali ibn Abi Talib or Abu Bakr? By the testimony of whom? Ali himself. Radiallahu anhu. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says himself, Abu Bakr at the Battle of Badr, at the Battle of Hunayn, he was holding the tether of the camel of the Prophet of Allah and all the armies of the Muslims that were running away. And that's Ali Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So Abu Bakr was traveling with the Prophet of Allah in that journey which is surrounded by danger. which is the journey of Hijrah. All the kuffar are after him. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is a courageous person, full of power. And who embraced Islam at the beginning? If it was Ali ibn Abi Talib was a kid, nobody would really pay attention to a kid. But the man, Abu Bakr, and his courage. So, radiallahu anhu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give the victory on the hands of. So Allah loves and His Messenger, Umar and Abu Bakr. But now He wants to give it because Allah's Messenger, He said Allah is going to give the victory in His hands. So now that the people now, the Muslims are really, during the night they're sleeping, they know which one is which is going to be, which is going to be. They're really, because Allah has a Messenger, He loves it. Who's going to be giving that standard? Who's going to be that standard? So on the following day, everybody was waiting. Is it going to be my name? Is going to be my name mentioned? And then the one whom the Prophet of Allah wants is not present. Go ahead.
The Muslims spent the night in anticipation, each man yearning to be chosen as standard bearer. At daybreak, the Prophet ﷺ inquired, "Where is Ali?" The companions replied, "He has an eye infection." Ali radiallahu anhu was brought before the Prophet ﷺ, who applied his spittle to Ali radiallahu anhu's eyes and prayed for his recovery. Ali radiallahu anhu found his eyes were cured instantly, and he was then given the Muslim standard.
Correct, authentic.
The Prophet ﷺ instructed him to invite the enemy to Islam.
So Ali, first of all, he asked Messenger of Allah, "Shall I fight them until they become like us? Become like us, but Muslims. Shall I fight them?" So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Go easy. Easy. When you are in their land, then call them to Islam." Go ahead, call them.
Only if they rejected the call to faith was Ali radiallahu anhu to fight.
But actually the word that the Prophet ﷺ in Sahih Bukhari Muslim, he says, "Unfud ala Muslim." That is, take it easy when you go there. If you are in there, فَإِذَا نَزَلْتَ بِسَاحَتِهِمْ, if you are in their courtyard, in their place, in their land, قَالْ ادْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْإِسْلَامِ, call them to Islam. And tell them what is incumbent upon them from the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By Allah, if Allah guides a person through you, it is better for you than humrun na'am. That is humrun na'am, that is the red camel. Red camels are the most expensive na'ams. Better than even some of the narration, better than the dunya and whatever is in it. Just for one person to embrace Islam. This is amazing. You know, when you are in a battle and you go into an enemy where the war booty is there, and you saliva, you see, ooh, lots of money, things there. And here the Prophet said, no, don't fight. Make sure that they're going to embrace Islam. Because if they embrace Islam, you can't have war booty, you know. Everything will be gone. Which army would do this? Such a thing? Which army? Which army? Except for the army of the Muslims. This is called war code. Don't fight, don't do anything. If anybody embraces Islam, it's better for you than the red camels. So here the Prophet ﷺ is directing his companions to be more careful and more paying attention to the da'wah, according to Islam, and not to look at the war booty. This is dunya. Ali, he took the flag, and we will stop here. When Ali took the flag, where is it that says?
Only if they rejected the call of faith was Ali to fight.
Okay, we'll stop here, inshallah. We'll leave for questions and answers because we've got a lot.
Yeah.
We'll leave that, inshallah. Okay. I don't mind as well if you want to ask about anything happens later on. But actually, what is in there, I'm going to be adding to it as well. Alright, I'm going to be adding to it, inshallah. Any questions, please? Go ahead. There's a lot of things to be learned in Khaybar. We're going to talk about, as we have promised you, because Safiya, you're not going to find there as well things regarding Safiya or Zaynab bint Mishkam. What happened to Safiya radiallahu anha wa ardaha. Because Safiya, she gave the war booty. So we'll talk about that inshallah. Now,
Regarding the letters,
Who is the person who wrote these letters? Well, some of them could be written by Ali ibn Abi Talib, some of them could be written by others, because we have scribes, Ali ibn Abi Talib, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, who used to write as well the Quran, and even Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So there are scribes among the Muslims. We know that the treaty drafted by whom? Ali ibn Abi Talib, al-Hudaybiyah treaty. Now, so uncle, we have no really indication which, because we said, remember, the text of the least letters are to be history, except for one which has been sent to Herakl. Now, what else, uncle? Go on.
I've lost it.
Okay, so search for it, uncle, when you find it, tell me. Now, Ya Muhammad.
Page 286, the letter to the Roman Emperor. From the second or third paragraph, where it says, "His message then on you shall rest the sin of your subjects and followers." From here, you can read it out that someone who is upon bid'ah and he has followers upon bid'ah. The followers, are they in any way exempt? And the person himself takes the burden of all the things. That's my
The question, if the sisters are there, it means that if a person, he is doing a sin or a bid'ah, and there are people who are followers, does it mean that if, according to the letter, where the Prophet ﷺ said to the king of Rome, which is Herakl, he said to him, Aslim, you'll be okay, make Islam. If you don't make Islam, then you'll have the sins of yourself and those who have followed you. Does that mean the followers will be exempted from the sin? That is depending upon the person who is being called. So, if, for example, those people who had followed that person and they were not shown the haqq, they did not have the chance to study where is the haqq, and they thought this man is to be the one who is the leader of the haqq, yes, their sins will be upon him. But if they are kuffar, they will be banned as a kuffar, and the test on the day of resurrection, who will know? He will know. That is, if they are to be from the people who did not receive the message properly. But we deal with the other disbelievers. So the innovators, who are the ones calling to the bid'ah, they will have not just their sins, but also the sins who had followed. And that's why it's very important for the person not to be a head in a fitna or a head of a bid'ah. Ibn Waddah, a great scholar, or sorry, not Ibn Waddah, Imam al-Tartushi, rahimahullah, he said, and he was in Bayt al-Maqdis, that the person who had innovated the Salah of al-Alfiyah, the 1000 rak'ah, he had, the one who innovated it, it's a bid'ah, was spread so much into the Muslim world at that time, without internet and there's no, but he spread so much that he was making tawbah in between my hands, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, and he's asking the Shaykh al-Tartushi, while the people in such and such places, they are praying that 1000 rak'ahs. One person had innovated something, and look what happened. So he is repenting because, as well, he's scared not just because of what he has done, those people who had followed him. So if those people who had followed him, they did not have an access to the right information, and they asked someone whom they deemed to be a very scholar, then definitely, as the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Man uftiya bi futya ghayri fabtin fa ithmuhu ala man aftah." He was being given a futya which is not right. Futya means anything to do with religion, something, concept, which is not being to be correct, then his sin will be upon the person who had led him to such mistake. So you will be sin upon him. And that person, if he is a scholar and he made ijtihad, he will not be sinned. He will be rewarded. If he hits the target, he will be double rewarded. But if it's a person who is ignorant, he will be sinned regardless whether he hit the target or he does not hit the target. Because if he hit the target, he had made fatwa without knowledge. So he still sinned. But if he did not hit the target, he will have the sins of his and the sins of all those who are followed that mistake. And that is why, Shaykh al-Islam he says, the person who is on the bid'ah, he could be rewarded for his bid'ah. How? Because this person, he didn't have access to the right scholars, And he thought that person is a right scholar, and he was not, he's an innovator. And his intention was sincere. Sincere in terms of what? Following the haqq and pleasing Allah. Yet he mistaken the path. So he followed that person with sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but the knowledge he was ignorant, and following that person thinking he's knowledgeable. He will be rewarded for his bid'ah because he did not know. And not to go far away from that man who had commanded his sons to burn him. He said to his sons before he dies that if I die, burn me and take my ashes, half in the sea and half in the wind. For verily, if Allah was capable, this is kufr, of gathering me back, He will punish me a punishment that He had never punished before me or after me. So the children were faithful to their father's will, which you should not be. If somebody asks you like this, you should not be faithful to a will which is haram. So after their dad were dying, they had burnt him, put his ashes in the wind, and half of his ashes in the sea. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's a Sahih Bukhari hadith. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded his particles to be so and so, and it was. And he was summoned before his Lord. And Allah is asking him, why have you done that? And Allah knows. So he says, khashyatuka, it's your fear. So he had sincere belief in Allah. And his doubting the capability of Allah, which is making it difficult for Allah to bring him back. Making it difficult. Because that's an issue as well. If you're going to be cremated, are you going to be questioned by Munkar and Nakir? Of course you're going to be, regardless of the way you die. You die in the sea, you die crucified, you die burnt, you're going to be questioned. Munkar and Nakir. So you don't think, oh, I got away with it. So that's what he thought. He made it difficult for Allah. Why? Because of his ignorance. Nobody told him. It's haram, calm down, this is Allah will bring you back. Nobody told him that. So he said, I'm in fear, I'm scared of you. That means he believes in Allah, sincere. But he was scared. So Allah, he says, forgiving you. Look at that. Even it is what he had asked for is injustice, haram. What he had said is major kufr. Not minor kufr, major kufr. Doubting the lordship of Allah. Doubting, I would say the lordship, one of the attributes of Allah, which is the power. Al-Mateen, Qawi, Shadid, all of that he had denied that. But because of his ignorance. So that's an answer, a detailed answer of what you have asked. So it depends. You can't just say every person he's not sinned because he had followed somebody else. No. No.
And the story of Salama ibn al-Akwa, he explained how he was chasing the sheep and yeah, because I was a bit confused because was he on foot and they were on horse, and how was he able to push the stones and running?
Right, let me mention the story of Salama ibn al-Akwa. It is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari. That is, he said, Salama himself, I had left Medina and heading towards al-Ghaba. Al-Ghaba, which is, as I said, the place in Medina where the pulpit of the Prophet ﷺ was made from. And there was the Prophet ﷺ's she-camels, and it was herding and grazing into the Qarad. And it was actually in the Ghaba. A man for Abdurrahman ibn Auf, which is a slave of his, he met me. So I said to him, what's wrong with you? So he said, verily, the she-camels of the Prophet ﷺ is being taken. So I said, who took it? So he said, Ghatafan wa Fazara, was the tribes. So I had made 3 screens. Ya Sabaha, Ya Sabaha. And this is a word to be said when there is something that happened. Ya Sabaha. And by the way, at the beginning when we said that he had left to Medina, is when the narration he said that it was actually in the Fajr prayer, before the Adhan of the Fajr, he left. So he said, Ya Sabah, I remember the people who are shepherd, very early they wake up, before Fajr, well before Fajr. Ya Sabah. So I have made sure that the people who are between the Labatain, which is the two lava of the Medina, to hear me. And then I was running towards those people until I caught up with them. And they are started to take in water. So I started throwing arrows towards them, and I was a person who was skillful. And I used to say, أنا ابن الأكوى, I am the son of al-Akwa. اليوم يوم الرضع. This is the day of suckling. And I used to make poetry until I took the camels from them before they drank. And I have taken 30 burda from them, 30 burda, which is cloaks. And I took all the camels, driving them, and the Prophet ﷺ came with the companions. So I said, Messenger of Allah, Alhamdulillah that I have protected the people and I have taken the camels, and the people were thirsty, that means the ones who had taken the camels, and I have actually made them not to drink the water. I took the camels. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ibn al-Akwa, that you have now, you got them, فَأَسْجِعْ, that means be kind to them. That is, be kind to them, to let them to drink. So I came, and the Prophet ﷺ honored me by putting me at his back, on his Abba Naqa, until we entered the Medina. Okay, until we entered the Medina. حتى دخلنا المدينة. Right, this is actually the story which is in Sahih Bukhari. There's other additions which I haven't really yet rated them, and they are authentic as well. Let me just as well read them for you. That's a long one. Right. Okay. After we have said that the Prophet ﷺ, he had taken me behind his back, okay, that one I have to really, it's going to be taking me a lot of things to translate. It's about 2 pages. So I'll leave that. Has that solved anything of what?
Because I was confused how he was on the 80% strong life he was still running away from him.
It is in front of me actually. It's in Hadith. As I said, it's 2 pages long. And look at the time. I'll ask other questions and I will do it next week, inshallah. Translate. It's a long one. In Muslim Ahmad. And it's authentic. Now, I said to you before, it's Bukhari and Muslim Ahmad. Now, Fajr is in the dark, not Fajr in the light. Even the Prophet ﷺ used to finish his Fajr, and the women used to come out of the Fajr, as Aisha she says, and their faces not be to be seen. They like black. So even after finishing the Fajr doesn't mean light. Fajr means dawn. Okay, and the dawn can be long before we see the lights, big one, which is. So there is Subh, Isbah, and there is Fajr. And the Prophet ﷺ's Sunnah is actually to make it at the beginning of the Fajr. There is some narrations where he did it very late, which is the Ahnaf, they do it. They do it just about half an hour before sunrise, when it's the proper light. But actually the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, as Aisha she says, we used to do the Fajr, and the Prophet ﷺ would recite long surahs as well. It will take about 15-20 minutes. Okay? And still will come out, and still dark. Fajr is on, but dark. You understand that? The Fajr is only that light on the horizon which comes pushing the darkness. That's the Fajr. So that light is there, but all of that is what? Dark. So that Fajr would grow, and push the light, the darkness away. So the first brink of light that you see in the horizon, which appears on the eastern side, that's the Fajr. But all of that darkness. No.
So how do we place all this whole fast where grief, the family grieves for 3 days and if it's the husband and 4 months and 10 days for the wife? How do they grieve? What is the equivalent for them to grieve? And if they grieve for more than 3 days, is that a sin?
Grief means that the woman, she is allowed to put the black for 3 days. Black dress. And the woman not to beautify herself. If it's not the husband, of course. The husband, she must. Other than the husband, it's up to her. And it would be good as well to beautify herself for her husband. Like Suhaib, she has done when her child died. So the person who is grieving, that means he is sitting home and he's, for example, because of the shock, he's allowed to cry and remember the memories of his. And after 3 days, the Prophet ﷺ told the al-Ja'far, the wife of Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, his cousin, after the battle of Mu'tah, لا تبكوا على ابن عمي. That is, don't now cry anymore of my what? On my cousin after the 3 days. But don't cry, that means don't cry, that means don't specify to cry. If the person remembered something and he cried upon someone, there's no problem about that. So for example, if a person, his father died, and yet he came to his mind and his tears is there, it's no problem. So you can't just say. So the Prophet ﷺ, didn't he cry with his mother years after her death? Years. He was crying to the extent that he made everybody cry with him. So the person cried on a person later on, it's no problem. But those 3 days has been designated. So for the woman not to put her kuhul, or to beautify herself. And for the men is a person that he is receiving condolences as well from the people. And also he's like, it's just for him to take his time until he settles. Those are 3 days it means. But it doesn't mean whatsoever that I must feed the people or I must sit down to receive condolences. It's not that. But if, for example, those 3 days, that those people come, because you could do it at any time, giving condolences. I don't have to come to his house and make him to stand up and go and serve me. So I have the burden of the death of my relative, whoever he is, my son, and then I have to have the burden of you coming to my house and to feed you, and making it difficult for me. That was the people they do it these days. The person, when he's got a grief or sorrow because of somebody's death, he's actually got another grief of, how can I care for the people? That's a big headache. And it's a disaster. That's why the whole family comes, and they start conferring now. What should we do? How much money are we going to spend? Whose invitation we're going to accept? Lots of people are going to invite you. And because you're going to invite, no, I'm not going to accept these because we're going to wait until those people who have given them food before when they had a crisis and death in their family. If those people did not give us, then we will, call them off or warn them. That's what happens. So it is like tit for tat, and all of it became social diseases. That's what it means, the hidad. Now, condolences. Hidad means mourning. Now, wailing is haram, tearing off the clothes is haram, putting out the hair is haram, it's been done in the Jahiliyyah. Now,
Should the widow wear white? Is there anything to say one should wear white clothing?
Prophet ﷺ, he said, the white is the best of your clothes. And when you bury your deceased, make your shroud is to be white. But the sunnah is to make the shroud white, and one of the sheets is to have black stripes on it. But the white is more. That's the sunnah. Number 2, Prophet ﷺ was seen dressed up in other than white. Even dressed up in imamah, which is a black one. As for the mourning, I have said the women, just the women, not the men. The men, you dress up in white if you want. For the women. The Prophet said, Tasallabi, 3 days. He said to one of the women whom her husband died, to have Tasallabi, to put the black for 3 days from those 4 months. So she's allowed to have what, 3 days when it is black. Because it's very important to know this, because people think it is following the trend of the kuffar. Or maybe the kuffar following the trend of us. So 3 days for black. Okay? But the men, no black. You could put a black as if you're I've got black nishdasha. So if I happen to put it there, I would say I will not put it, because if you're a person who is known to be a person who people might, imitate you, do like you, I would advise a person to put black in those occasions. They will say, no, look, it's black. Actually, I tend to put white, very white in those occasions. So I go to the graveyard and put white. I will make sure that I will as well not to sit down in the condolences where they put the tent, unless I want to give an admonition. Okay, so we come and we start, come inside and we talk about all this bid'ah. Your place is a bid'ah. Everything you do is a bid'ah. No problem. And there are people that listen to you. They listen to you, but they do nothing. They still do the food on the third day, they themselves make the food, not other people making food for them. Allah Musta'an. And we have last question, please.
When placing the dead person in the grave, who says the dua Bismillah, and is it repeated many times?
Only one person who says it, Bismillah, the one who's taken it inside, but no problem if another person said it. No problem. Bismillah. So the most important thing is that to say that word, is not who says it. So the one who's going to enter in the grave is going to put it. So it is to be said while you are pushing him inside. The head is from the feet side, and it goes until the head goes to the head side. So it goes from the feet side. So this is the grave, this is the qibla. The head is supposed to be where? This is the qibla. Where's the head? Has to be on his right. Remember that. So the head is here, that's the qibla, that's the feet side. So it will be entered from where? From here. That's if it's a Muslim graveyard. Here you can't do that. He's lowered like this. You know that. There's nothing there, there's no this. He's lowered that way. But we say, make sure you bring it on this side. If he's lowered this, he's not lowered this way. So that person is inside, or the person who's pushing it in, say, Bismillah ala millati Rasulillah. If one said it, then everybody heard it, khalas. Yeah, once. That's only once. But if it's been said more, because the people, person said it, another person who pushes said it, it's no problem. But to say that you have to say it twice, that's the bid'ah. It's only once. Bismillah wa ala millati Rasulillah, or ala tariqati Rasulillah. Now, subhanallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta